ॐ श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ॐ नमः प्रणवार्थाय शुद्धज्ञानैकमूर्तये निर्मलाय प्रशान्ताय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। धर्मान् पृथक् पश्यन् तानेव अनुविधावति. Seeing the seeing Atma as the variegated items, elements in the Jagat, one tends to follow them only. There is no Bheda. There is only Ekameva Advitiya Atma. But what is obvious, what seems clear to every thinking is that there are many different things. Each has different properties, each has different shape, size, name, etc. and exist at different times. So everything exists within a space-time continuum and is different from everything else. I am different from everybody else. I am different from everything else. I am different from Ishvara because I seek Ishvara. I pray to Ishvara. This Bheda is not real. It is only Bheda Darshanam, a point of view very simplistically accepted as correct. It is convenient, but it is not true. There is no Nanatvam. But Nanatvam Pashyati, not even Nanatvam Pashyati, Nanatvam Iva Pashyati. There is no Nanatvam. Now look at our own selves. We see all this around us, people, other beings, non-beings, Ishvara. To us, they all exist as separate things. It is not that you can't do it. One does it anyway, because that's how you start the whole process. But one questions that. It looks like the most easy way to accept that. You will hear many people saying, for example, Bhagavan enna pandraro nalladha panduvar. Avarukku theriyum enakku enna panum. Bhagavan knows what I want and he will do only what is good. You'll see people saying things like that. At least to the extent that they understand that there is a Bhagavan who is all power, all knowledge, we will take that there. Sooner or later, we hope that that bhakti will bring them to this path of trying to understand. Whether it is Sherlock Holmes or any other detective of that genre, Hercule Poirot, all of them, they all have a statement to make. They say, when the obvious cannot be correct, then what is not obvious, however outlandish it may be, however implausible it may be, has to be right, has to be true. You've read this, many of these people, the stories you would have read this kind of statement. It is true that when what seems obvious, like our Swamiji's Murari Bharbar, to him Dvaitam is obvious. I don't need teaching, I don't need Shastra, I don't need any other Pramana to say there is Dvaitam. There is multiplicity. But we know that if you can think a little bit of vichara into it, we know that cannot be correct. We also accept Shastra as a Pramana, which very categorically says, Nanatvam eva pashyati, mrityor mrityum gacchati. Oh, I don't mind another birth. Okay, you can have another birth. But how do you know the other birth may not be something really terrible? You don't know. So you can't apply that kind of a logic and say, no, it's okay for me. I'm not saying people are 99.999% of the people are like that only. They either don't have any sense that there will be another Janma, or they will say, if I have to have Janma, I have to have another Janma. Bhagavan will take care of it. That's why in the last this thing we saw, no? Anena nayam astiti chaike ityatam pakshaha nyanyato aprapto api swavachanena shrutya prayukta. We saw that last time. No amount of logic will justify any of these kind of thought. So if this cannot be correct, what is the possibility, what is the alternative, what Shastra tells you? And Shastra tells you, Ekameva Advitya Brahman. Everything else that you think you see from within the Jagat is like seeing everything from within a dream. They are therefore defined as Mithya, non-self-existing. There is no real existence for them. They borrow their existence. So, however implausible something might be, it has to be correct. Now, what do I do in that case? I only have to dive deep into that knowledge, understand what this says, understand what the Shastra says, understand and look for how the Guru unfolds it, contemplate upon it, and having removed all my doubts, I then really sit down on Dhyanam. Nididhyasanam. Nididhyasanam is not Dhyanam on an object. Nididhyasanam is a focused thinking on what has been unfolded during Shravanam. This we have to do, fortunately, in the midst of all that we are seeing here. We live here, we have to be in this Jagat. The body has to be maintained, sanity has to be maintained. People will give you all kinds of wrong and contrary logic. Amidst all this, I still have to exist and hold my sanity, hold my thinking straight. There will be all kinds of kutarka logic will be there. I saw that word kutarka somewhere here in the Bashyam. Where was it we saw that? Probably in the previous mantra, I don't remember. Kutarka is logic which gives you false conclusion. Baseless logic. Based on some assumptions which lead you the wrong way. When this is so clearly stated in the Shastra, once you accept the Shastra as a pramana, how can you possibly interpret if you're a particularly sharp thinking person? There are many schools of thought which tell you that this is dualism is correct. How can you possibly interpret it like that? You have to twist the words to be able to interpret like that. Because the words are absolutely clear. Chandrakya Ekameva Advitiyam Brahma. How can you twist that? Tat Tvam Asi. Somehow you introduce A in there and say Atatvam Asi. You bring in that Nanatvam without any basis. Maybe some of these great thinkers deliberately do that because Nanatvam, like I said, is what is obvious to most people. In fact, to everybody it is obvious. Only the few handful of people who question that, who apply logic correctly and say, this cannot be correct. Very few. So how do I keep the rest of the majority, 99.99999% of the people, sticking to their dharma? I say, okay, what you're saying is right. There is Ishvara, accept that there is Nanatvam, and pray to Ishvara for whatever you want. Only thing is you elevate your prayer from simply saying, I want material things or I want laukika things to another level. Say, I want to understand. That is where jignasa comes in. Hey Bhagavan, help me to understand this. Has to start with a Shraddha in the Shastra. There is no other way. Nanyat pantha vidyate ayanaya. There is no other way of finding this out. So it starts with a query in the mind saying, if this is not correct, what is correct? If this is not true, what is true? And like I said, that effort to find out has to be in the midst of enormous external forces which act on us on a day-to-day basis. Multiple thought processes, multiple logic, multiple forces. In the midst of all this, we still have to figure out that any nanatvam that seems to be visible is nanatvam eva. Therefore, what is the truth? And one has to have a committed search process to understand. Eventually, I seek the truth, that I, the seeker, is the same as the truth that is being sought. There is no bheda at all. So in the previous mantra, we saw the example which shows that person who sees bheda, who does not look into it a little deeply, who doesn't see beyond it, only sees bheda, accepts it at that level and moves on with life. Such a person, dharman pratak pashyan taneva anuvidhavati, goes after that, goes after all the varieties. What is good thoughts? What is pleasant sight? What is what I think will give me what I want? Because most of the time we are not sure what to be on. Therefore, it goes after them. But a small handful of people who have also gone on this path of search, that should include all of us, say no, even though it looks obvious, it is obviously not correct. I have to understand such a person, when he gains that knowledge, when he gains that clarity, is saying there can be only Ekameva Advitya Brahman. Tad Brahma Aham. Certain that will come sooner or later. Today I may not have that ready available, but I accept what Shastra says. Not because I accept it says, but because I think that is A, it's a pramana, and B, I can use my own capacity to think, my sukshma buddhi, and understand how it has to be correct. Such a person is often called a muni. When we say muni, what is the thought that comes to the mind? What is the image that comes to the mind? I don't know. Different people might have different images of a muni. Who is a muni? If you go to Rishikesh, you will see a lot of people who you think might look like my concept of muni. Or even rishi for that matter. What is a rishi? One who sees, the seer, pashyati. That's a rishi. Such people who are able to see the truth, who are able to see in and through this bheda, they're able to see the abheda vastu. No possible bheda. No svagata bheda, therefore it's part plus. No svajatiya bheda, no vijatiya bheda, nothing of that. So in the last of these mantras in this section, this Valli, which is a really the Upadesha. The second Valli, which consisting only of 15 verses, 15 mantras, is the entire Upadesha. We do have two more Vallis following this, but only for reinforcement. The last of this says, how does a person who is able to see the abheda in and through all the multiple Vedas, what about that person? So, the one who is able to see this and who understands that Veda Darshanam is continuation of samsara, therefore there is something more than that. Abheda Darshanam is moksha. Clarity of Abheda is moksha. That knowledge is moksha. So, Bhashikara says, Punarapi Veda Darshana Apavadam Brahmanaha Aha Veda Darshana Apavadam. That which negates Veda Darshanam, one who is able to see that there cannot be Veda in and through every element which you see in the Veda Darshanam, has to be only one Brahman. For that, we see so many examples are given. A variety of things are there with different names, forms, utilities. In and through all of them, there is only Brahman. There is only one Atma. Those are variations we see only because of Mithya Upadhi. It has to be Mithya Upadhi. Otherwise, Upadhi will become another Vastu. Therefore, it is so important to understand the Mithyatvam of the Jagat. And that Jagat includes, not to forget, all that I thought I was. My body, my mind, my senses, my thoughts, my feelings, everything includes it. It's all Mithya, Jagat. They are only Upadhi. There has to be a meaning for I. I is the one Advitiya Brahman. To be able to see through this. Once the person sees through this, then body is Jagat, mind is Jagat. So if anything happens to the body, I see it because I'm still part of in this Jagat. But I see through it. Any pain I see, any sorrow I feel in my mind. In all this, I have to jabardasti use the word I, even though I recognize that use of I is the wrong use of I. That Muni, that Purusha who's understood this, that Rishi is what is being talked about here. With an example. Earlier we saw an example where he said, the Shruti said, where Dharmaraja said, where water falls on the top of a tall mountain, there's only one strong flow of a single huge river. It splits as it comes down into the lower levels into multiple streams, brooks, rivers, all with different names and forms, all with different, just like when we see the Nanat from here, because we don't see beyond that. We see all these streams. That fellow who is in one part of the mountain says, no, this is the river. The other fellow says, no, my river is this. And they all disappear, just like the Nanatvam that we see in this Jagat. Good example, limited, but good example. Here, uses the same kind of concept of water, Udakam. And again, it's a very good example, but very limited, not to be stretched. What does it say? Yathodakam durge vrishtam.
Yathodakam durge vrishtam.
No, I'm reading the previous one, sorry.
Yes.
Yathodakam shuddhe shuddham.
Yathodakam shuddhe shuddham.
Asiktam tagradeva bhavati.
Asiktam tagradeva bhavati.
Evam munir vijanataha.
Evam munir vijanataha.
Atma bhavati gautama.
Atma bhavati Gautama.
Atma bhavati gautama.
Atma bhavati Gautama.
The last mantra in this Valli. Yatha udakam shuddhe. Shuddhe saptami. Just like in clean, clear water, Shuddha Udakam. So Shuddha Udake, Shuddham Udakam Asiktam. When another container having the same kind of clean, clear water is poured into this. Shuddham Udakam Asiktam Shuddha Udake, when it is poured into this, now you have another. This word Asiktam, we saw a similar word in the previous mantra, I think. In the Bashyam, in the previous mantra.
Kathopanishad,
Siktam.
classical
Siktam. Siktam is poured. Sinshu. Siktam. Asiktam. Same thing. It is poured into another container which contains again pure, clear water. What happens? It is not like pouring water into oil. Water and oil are immiscible. Or pouring dirty water into clean water. That dirty water will dirty the clean water also. Or colored water into clean water. It will color the clean water also. But if you have two clear, clean water, and one is poured into the other, then what happens? Tadrugeva bhavati. There is no change. It still remains clear, clean water. Shuddha udakam. Nothing changes. We have seen other examples like this. Ghatakasha, room akasha. Akasha means space. They are not separate. There is only one space. In fact, there's a better example than udakam. You don't have to pour into anything. When you say space, even the container is in space. One container has space, another container has space, the same thing. Space is indivisible. So is this water. One clean water in one container, when poured into another container containing also clean water, what is the result? Is only clean water. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vashishyate. That is better to understand that. There is only one Purnam. So the example given here is when Udakam Shuddham Udakam Shuddhe Udake Asaktim remains the same. No change. Oh, no, volume change. The volume can change. There is no volume. There is only an example. That's why I said don't stretch the example. Evam, in the same way, Munehe Vijanataha, the knowledgeable person, the person who has made the effort to find out and has understood the Aikyam, recognizes that there is only one. It looks like many different Atmas and many different Jivas, many different non-beings, and there's a separate Ishvara somewhere else. It looks like that. But that knowledgeable person is able to see that there is only one. There is even no dividing space because space is also the same. That such a person is called Muni here. In the same way, Munihi Vijanataha Atma understands Atma as being just one. Atma Bhavati He Gautama. Hey Nachiketa. You see only that Atma. In our famous example of the gold ornaments, hundreds of different gold ornaments. different sizes, different shapes, different names. Even among necklaces, there are different names. All the women will know that very well. You go to the shop and you see 10 different necklaces, each has a different name. Each has a different way of making, each has a different shape, each has a different size. But in and through all of them, there is only gold. That vision is what he's talking about here. And I see only Brahman. In the first stage of this learning, we said, you first see that there is only Ishvara. Everything you see around you, including yourself, there is only Ishvara. There are not, to say that there's only one Ishvara is also a little incomplete. Swamiji says there is only Ishvara. Everything you see, everything you don't see is only Ishvara in this Jagat. Yesterday we had a small snake in the ashram here. Not small really, about 4 or 5 feet, I would think. Jagdish's feet also was here when the snake was there. He saw that. But in that snake also there is only Ishvara, there's nothing else. Whether something you like, you don't like, it doesn't matter. So in the first stage, one recognizes only Ishvara in everything. At that stage, I and Ishvara. Therefore, I pray to Ishvara. But what is the ultimate prayer, you remember? There also, the only eventual prayer is, please help me understand how the two that I'm seeing, I and you, Hey Ishvara, how they are ananya, non-different, non-separate, because both are the same. I think is because of a certain upadhi I have. Ishvara, I think because Ishvara has another upadhi. Both are only Maya. Both are Maya upadhi. Our Tattva Bodha says, Ishvara has Maya upadhi, the Sattva component. Everything has Maya upadhi, which is the combined component. Therefore, multiplicity. When I'm able to see through the upadhi into the one Brahman, the same in Ishvara and I, then I understand that although I started by saying that there is only Ishvara, I am there and Ishvara is there, I recognize that even that I and Ishvara are both nothing but Brahman. Everything else is Mithya. The moment you add a Upadhi, it is Mithya. Upadhi is Mithya. Satyam is only one. There cannot be anything else. So that is what the Muni sees. Munehe Vijanata. That Atma, the Muni sees. Hey Gautama, this is the answer to what you asked for. What is that Atma which transcends dharma, adharma, which transcends time, which transcends right and wrong, because all these belong to the Jagat. Punya, Papa, everything belongs to the Jagat. Punya, Papa is nothing but that cycle in the Jagat, that Punya Papa which leads to Adrishtaphala, that Adrishtaphala needs to be exhausted. That exhaustion needs Sharira, Sthula Sukshma Sharira. Therefore, another birth. Therefore, more karma. Therefore, more dharma, adharma, punya, papa. That which transcends all this is that you're looking for, hey Nachiketa. And that is the Ekameva Advitya Brahman, Atma, you. So, Dharmaraja concludes this Valli by clearly answering Nachiketa and his question. What transcends dharma, dharma? What transcends time? What transcends space? Only you. Bhashyakara develops on this. You read the Bhashyam. Introducing this verse, Bhashyakara says, Yasya Punaha Vidhyavataha
पुनः
विद्यावतः
Vidyavastaha
विद्यावत्तः
Upadhikrita Veda Darshanasya
उपाधिकृतभेददर्शनस्य
वेददर्शनस्य
Vishuddha Vijnana Ghanaika Rasam
विशुद्धविज्ञानघनैकरसम्
अदत्तम्
Advayam Atmanam
अद्वयमात्मानं
अद्वयमात्मानम्
Pashyataha.
पश्यतः
पश्यतः
I mean, Vijanataha
विजानतः
जानतः
Munehe.
मुनेः
Munehe Mananashilasya. Munehe is Shashti. Mananashilasya
मननशीलस्य
मननशीलस्य
Atmaswarupam
आत्मस्वरूपं
आत्मस्वरूपम्
Katham Bhavati
सम्भवति
कथं भवति
Ityuchyate.
यत्युच्यते
इत्युच्यते
Because in the previous mantra we saw where Veda Darshanam is seen, Nanatvam Iva is seen, is Pashyati, Bhashyakara says, what is then the correct way of looking at it? Yasya Punaha, however, in contrast, here Punaha will mean two. Vidyavataha, one who has knowledge, Vidyavan. After Vidyavan, he explains that Vidyavastaha. Vidyavastaha. That person, what does he see? Upadhikrita Veda Darshanasya. Upadhikrita Veda Darshanasya. What Veda is created by Upadhi, which is all Mithya, which is non-self-existing. Veda Krita, Upadhikrita Veda Darshanasya. Vishuddha Vijnana Ghanaika Ekarasam Advayam Atmanam Pashyataha. That person who is able to see the Vishuddha Vijnana Ghana Ekarasam. Ekarasam is the only one. Which is clean, pure. Vishuddha is not a very good way translating pure. It is, translating as pure, it is the only Vijnana Ghana. It's only Atma. Everything else that Veda you see, Upadhikrita Veda Darshana. Only Veda you see is because of Upadhi. But through that he says, Vishuddha Vijnana Ghana Ekarasa Advayam Atmanam Pashyataha. Of the Very interesting. The whole thing is in Shashti. Yasya is Shashti. Punaha Vidyavataha is Shashti. Vidyastaha Upadikata Beda Darshanasya is Shashti. Vishuddha Vijnana Ekarasam Advayam Atmanam Pashyataha. He who sees. This is the whole thing is a Bahuviri compound. He who sees that the Bedha is Upadhikrita on this Vishuddha Vijnana Ghana Ekarasam Advayam Atmanam Pashyata. Sees that he who sees that single Ekarasam Atma, Advitiyam Atma, Pashyataha means Vijanataha, who understands this Atma, he Munehe. Of that Muni, Muni is defined as Manana Shilasya. One who has done adequate thinking, his, all Shakti. Manana Shilasya. Of that person, the Muni, who, it's all referring to him only, who has been able to see the Vishuddha Vijnana Ghana Ekarasam Advayam Atmanam Pashyata, he who sees that and sees only that Veda Darshanam is only because of Upadhi, such a person, Mananashilasya, Atmasvarupam Katham Bhavati. How does he see the Atma? The Veda Darshana Purusha sees Atma as multiple. There are so many different Atmas. How does a person who understands this, that any variation you see, any difference you see is because of Upadhi Krita? What is there is only Ekarasa Vijnana Ghana Advaita Atmanam, Advaita Atma. Atma Swarupam Katham Bhavati. How does he see the Atma? How does he understand the Atma? Already he has defined it. He sees it as Advayam Atma. But he's asking that question and said the question is answered by the mantra. Yatha udakam shuddhe shuddham asiktam tadrigeva bhavati. All of these are just one Advitiya Atma. Who sees like this? In this manner, Munehe Vijanataha. The thinking person, the one who has Sukshma Buddhi, which was defined earlier in one of the verses, one of the mantras, who has the Sukshma Buddhi, who is able to see this, sees only this Ekameva Advitiya Brahman as Ekarasa Vishuddha Vijnana Ghana Ekarasa Atma. That is the way he sees it. Atma Bhavati He Gautama. So the mantra says that. These mantras also explained by Bhashyakara. We read that. Yatha udakam shuddhe
यथा उदकं
Udakam
शुद्धे
Shuddhe
prasanne
Prasanne
shuddham prasannam
शुद्धं
Shuddham
प्रसन्नं
Prasannam
asiktam
Asit
prakshiptam
आसिक्तं प्रक्षिप्तं
ekarasameva
एकरसमेव
Ekarasameva
nanyatha
नान्यथा
Anyatha
tadrigeva bhavati.
तादृगेव
Tadrigeva
भवति
Bhavati
Yatha, just as udakam shuddhe, into the clear, pure water, Shuddhe, he translated as prasanne. Prasanne, not happy waters, okay? Happy waters has a different connotation. Clear water, not tainted by anything. Shuddhe, prasanne, into that Shuddha Udakam, prasanne, Shuddham prasannam asiktam. Another prasanna udakam is poured into it, asiktam. Asiktam is prakshiptam, poured into. Ekarasameva, there is only one. Na anyatha, just as the water, when you pour clean, clear water is poured into another clean, clear water, remains exactly the same. Tadrigeva bhavati. In the same way, Atma api
Atma api
evam eva
evam
evam
eva
eva
evam eva bhavati.
evam eva
evam eva
bhavati.
bhavati.
Atma api evam eva bhavati. Atma
Atma
also, there is only one. There is not two different of multiple different Atmas. There is only one Atma. It only looks as though there are many. In the same way, it says, evam, in this manner, eva Atma api bhavati. There is only one single indivisible Atma. So all that I see as multiple is only eva, is only because of mithya upadhi. Ekatvam vijanatah
एकत्वं
ekatvam
विजानतः
vijanataha
munehe mananashilasya
munehe
मुनेः
Mananashilस्य
मननशीलस्य
mananashilashya
he
हे
Gautama.
गौतम
हे
हे
he
गौतम
Gautama.
Gautama.
This ekatvam vijanatah, the one who sees this ekatvam, ekatvam vijanatah. Again, Bhashyakara continues in the same structure. Such a Muni, and the Muni he calls Mananashilaha. Mananashilasya perspective. His way, his vision, his way of understanding is ekatvam of the Muni, the Mananashila. Mananashila, I mean that you know that Mananam is what we do to try and remove any kind of doubt that we might have. Having done Shravanam, we remove doubts by doing certain vichara. We take all the other inputs, just like Bhashyakara does in his Bhashyam, takes Purvapakshis and then shows how there's error in there. We also do that through Mananam process. Therefore, the person who has done that, who's Pananashila, is who's expert at this kind of thing, who's understood this. Yeah. Yatnashila, Mananashila. The Shila indicates one who is very good at it, who's expert at it. Ekatvam vijanataha munehe mananashilasya. Vision is what? Ekatvam only. That any multiplicity you see, the bheda you see, a nanatam you see, is one has to look well into it and see the ekatvam. This sometimes what happens, because this is so obvious, the nanatam looks obvious, one says that is correct and therefore tries to argue using logic which is not correct. That is where the word kutarka comes. Tarka is logical thinking. Kutarka is false logical thinking. Tasmat.
Tasmat
Put together. Tasmat
तस्मात्
kutarkika-bheda-drishtim
कुतार्किकभेददृष्टिं
nastika-kudrishtim
नास्तिककुदृष्टिं
उद्दिष्टम्
chodjitva
चोज्झित्वा
चोज्जित्वा
matru-pitru-sahastrebhyah api
मातृपितृसहस्रेभ्यः
मातृपितृसहस्रेभ्यः अपि
अपि
hitaishina
हितैक्षिणा
हितैषिणा
vedena upadishtam atmaikyatva-darshanam
वेदेन
वेदेनोपदिष्टम्
उपदिष्टम् आत्मैकतत्त्वदर्शनम्
आत्मैकतत्त्वदर्शनम्
shanta-darpaihi
शान्तदर्पैः
शान्तदर्पैः
adarniyam ityarthah.
आदरणीय
आदरणीयम् इत्यर्थः
इत्यर्थः
Ekatvam vijanata munehe mananashilasya, their drishti, their view, their point of understanding is ekatvam. They are able to see the falseness of the upadhi created multiplicity, which is what we are striving to do. Logically, we can perhaps reach there. But the problem comes when we have to understand that the multiplicity which we see, which includes our body-mind-sense complex, my body-mind-sense complex, which I have always thought of as I, is also part of this false multiplicity, mithya multiplicity. I have to be able to see that. The Muni is able to see it because he is Mananashila. Then I see I came with, oh my God, then I have to really negate all that I had assumed I was. And I still can't negate it totally because even after all this understanding, I have to go back and attend to my work in the office. But now I understand it. I do this work in the office. I take care of all the things in the home with a clarity of understanding. That's the only difference. Everything will continue. I have to take care of my parents, I have to take care of my children, I have to take care of my society, I have to take care of my office work, I have to take care of my subordinates in the office. Sure. But now I do it with an understanding of this whole knowledge, ekatvam. In and through, in spite of all this thing, I still see that. Therefore, he says, tasmat, therefore, kutarkika veda drishtim. The veda drishti that you see, you've seen already that is not correct. That is false logic. We've already negated that. And having negated that kutarkika veda drishtim, that adai nastika kudrishtim, goes back again to the original question, that there is nothing after the fall of the body. That paksha, the people who say that, which are a lot of people, nastika kudrishtim, wrong, false drishti, cha ujjitva, ujjadatu, having abandoned, having rejected, ujjitva, the iktva pratyaya on the ujjadatu, ujjitva, matru-pitru sahastrebhyah api hitaishina vedena upadishtam atmaikya darshanam. What a beautiful expression. Atma eka darshanam, like that of a Muni, which is what is told to us in the Upadesha. What Upadesha? Vedena upadishtam atmaikya darshanam. With that clarity of what Veda is telling us, what is the eka darshanam that Veda is telling us, and that atma eka darshanam he qualifies. Very interesting. Matru pitru sahastrebhyah api hitaishina. which is more beneficial than 1,000 parents. My God. We know that parents work only for the hita of the child. So the comparison here is 1,000 times that kind of, thousands of times that kind of hita of a parent or parents, bigger than that. Bigger hita, bigger use, bigger value than that is what? Atma Ekatva Darshanam, which is Vedena Upatishtam. This you have to accept, respect, because you understand, because you are a Mananshila. How? Shanta Darpaihi Adarniyam Ityartaha. Shanta Darpaha means with a clarity that comes from an enlightened ahankara. An ahankara which has been able to see that ahankara, the body, the mind, the senses, etc., are upadhi, are mithya. That ahankara, that kind of shanta darpaihi, adarniya, by that respected, by that understood, this Vedena Upadishtam Atmaikatva Darshanam Ityarthaha. That is the meaning of this mantra. So Bhashyakara concludes this Valli with a instruction to us, in this case to Gautama, and through Gautama, through all of us, to see the aikyam through all this, to understand that Eka Vastu is Aham. That Aham, which in the past has come from my Ahankara. Ahankara is Ahamkara. Like Ikara, Ukara, Ahamkara. That Ahankara which has identified I as my body, mind, sense complex, that Ahankara is now an enlightened Ahankara and sees the truth as Ekadarshanam. Atma Ekaitva, Atma Ekatva Darshanam. Able to see that. When we are in the Shravanam mode, this looks clear. But what is important is that when I get out of this now, go back to doing whatever I am doing on a Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon in the case of Australia, I have to consistently keep in front of me this Vedena Upadishtam Atma Ekatva Darshanam. In the midst of all that I continue to do that I was doing earlier. It doesn't easily happen. The Shruti could have finished it here. That's the end of that. Upadesha is done. Yamadharmaraja has answered Nachiketa's questions precisely in a way that's understandable, at least at the time when one is hearing that. But it still needs to be assimilated. Therefore, two more vallis, looking at it from different perspectives, which we will see beginning next class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Thank you, everybody.
Om
Have a great
Swamiji.
day.
Om
Swamiji.
Swamiji.
नमस्कारः धन्यवादाः पुनः पुनः
धन्यवाद